Good afternoon and welcome to the Midday News for Wednesday, January 14. I'm Carrie Simpson. A special welcome to our viewers on YouTube, TVJ International in the Cayman Islands, and online at onespotmedia.com. Here's what we have in the bulletin.
Major fraud investigation underway at University Hospital of the West Indies. JPS records 93% restoration. And later in sports, Racing United looks to go atop of JPL standings.
Now the details. A major fraud investigation is underway following a damning Auditor General report into the procurement practices at the University Hospital of the West Indies. In a statement last night, the UHWI's board confirmed that the hospital had reported specific matters arising from the AG report to the relevant authorities, including the Jamaica Constabulary Forces Fraud Squad and Jamaica Customs. It further notes that the AG report identifies weaknesses that reflect long-standing procedural gaps and legacy practices that developed over several administrative periods, predating both the current board and the current executive leadership. The board says prior to its tabling, the process had begun to strengthen the hospital's governance, improve documentation, and reinforcing oversight across the facility. In the meantime, UHWI board member Eric Husson has been appointed acting CEO of the facility. This as a current CEO, Fitzgerald Mitchell, will proceed on 3 months leave. In its statement, the board noted that this decision was taken both to address an extensive leave backlog and to facilitate the independent conduct of the reviews and processes now underway without any perception of influence. To more details on the Auditor General's report, the AG noted that the audit was conducted as part of a broader initiative titled Ensuring Value for Money in Public Health Procurement. It evaluated how the UHWI managed its procurement activities in light of increased allocation for equipment and supplies from the Ministry of Health. Alia Bryant has the details.
According to the Auditor General's report, of the 800 procurement activities valued at over 1.6 billion, which were reported to the Integrity Commission in the UHWI's 2024 quarterly reports, only 20 were published on the Government of Jamaica's electronic procurement platform. It further lists among the areas of concern the fact the hospital could not provide procurement documentation for 51 contracts valuing $521 million. The entity also inappropriately utilized its tax-exempt status to import goods for private companies, which is a clear breach of the Customs Act. This resulted in over $20 million in unpaid import duties. The report gives as an example UHWI using its tax-exempt status to import laundry equipment valued at approximately $28 million for private company 1. The hospital also facilitated the import of office furniture and medical equipment valued at $40.6 million for private company 2, as well as cups and dishes worth $1.41 million. The institution subsequently purchased the cups and dishes from private company 3 for a price of $6.9 million. It further notes the UHWI enabled the import of 40 waste bins for private company 4 worth $6.6 million and then purchased the bins for $11 million and covered the remaining import duties and charges. The AG's report notes that in its initial management response in August 2025, UHWI confirmed that it had ceased facilitating imports for private entities using its tax-exempt status. Now, the hospital further acknowledged that this practice violated public trust and procurement law. It adds that in October 2025, UHWI reiterated its acceptance of the findings pending further investigations and stated it was seeking the most suitable measures to prevent a recurrence of such activities. Other red flags highlighted in the report: UHWI frequently initiated the procurement process after goods or services had already been delivered or works completed. This was the case for the purchase of 41 laptops and renovations to several facilities, including the staff clinic, occupational building, doctor's quarters, daycare nursery, wards 17 to 20, and the Wi-Fi building. The total estimated value of these projects amounted to $69.2 million. Suppliers were asked to bid after the goods or services had been provided, another clear breach of the Procurement Act. The Auditor General is recommending UHWI should prioritize the development and submission of an annual procurement plan that complies with the standards stipulated in the Government of Jamaica's Public Procurement Handbook to enhance accountability and transparency in light of significant financial allocations. It says the hospital must promptly finalize and submit all outstanding financial statements and annual reports to the Ministry of Health. The AG also suggests that the ministry should intensify its oversight of UHWI's activities by ensuring the timely submission of all required reports. Aliyah Bryant, TVJ News.
As at January 9, over 70,000 home assessments have been conducted as part of the government's hurricane recovery program. Speaking at Wednesday's post-cabinet press briefing, Labour and Social Security Minister Pernell Charles Jr. says 5 categories were recorded: damage, no damage, minor damage, major damage, and severe.
From those 5 categories down to the top 3, minor, major, and severe. And the percentages so far are 37% in terms of the minor, 35, is it CTD, for the major, and 16, I hope that adds to 100. But we did expect for the most severe to taper down because those were the ones that we prioritized and those are the assessments that were done first. So at this point, we have completed most, if not all, of those, and therefore we anticipate that the remainder 20,000 or so assessments to be done will be in the minor category primarily, and some in the major.
Now, Energy Minister Darrell Vaz provided an update on the ongoing restoration process of the Jamaica Public Service JPS during this morning's post-cabinet press briefing.
We are now at 93% restoration. We have 51,000 customers still out. 30,000 of those customers are ready to receive electricity and will receive between now and what I just said, what you just heard, end of January, early February. There's 21,000 customers that are not ready to receive. So JPS cannot be held accountable to restore 21,000 people who are not ready. What we are going to do with JPS, with the Ministry of Labour and Social Security, with JSIF, is we are going to identify those areas to see how the government can target those areas in conjunction with JPS to get them ready to receive electricity. So we will be at 96% by the end of January, early February. But if you take those 21,000 that are not ready for connection, which JPS cannot be held accountable for, we would have succeeded in delivering on our commitment for early restoration by end of January, early February.
The Agriculture Minister has given details on what he describes as a significant recovery of crops post-Hurricane Melissa, even as his opposition counterpart complains about the slow pace of relief for some farmers. Krista Campbell reports.
A cornfield ready to pop, and Agriculture Minister Floyd Green says it's testament to the rebound of almost all cash crops since the passage of Hurricane Melissa on October 28, 2025. In fact, he pointed to a glut in areas like the Breadbasket parish of St. Elizabeth, which was among the worst affected by the weather system.
Where we see things are being planted, for example, like cucumber and lettuce that we saw significant planting the first 2 weeks of the Hurricane Melissa, then we would have not allowed the importation because we recognize that those crops are 6-week crops and would have come in sufficient quantities.
In fact, there is a glut in certain crops for which farmers have already begun to complain about a lack of adequate markets.
A lot of our farmers went into those short-term 6-week crops. Now there's a set demand. So when you have all of those crops coming in at the same time, then the supply will outstrip the demand.
But the minister says cold storage units will address that issue.
We have input 1 in the Flagaman area in St. Elizabeth, and we're going to get that up and running with a management structure by the end of January. We're going to open our Essex Valley storage facility, which will hold about 22 containers of food come February, and then we're going to move to open our Kirkvine facility. Once we have storage, what you will see is that in times of glut, we'll be able to store and as such supply in times of shortage.
Now, while he celebrates a drop in prices for these crops, Opposition spokesman on agriculture, Dr. Dayton Campbell, is pushing for the promised funds to members of parliament to help farmers in Melissa-ravaged areas recover. Dr. Campbell is MP for Westmoreland Eastern.
I would want to, for example, get some of our females some poultry. Want to get some persons some small ruminants, or get people back their bees or some sugar for the bees box or whatever it is, or those who are doing agronomy that want to go to and sow some carrots or plant some cabbage or lettuce or whatever it is. They are not able to get that assistance as yet because we have not received the allocation.
In November 2025, the Agriculture Minister had promised an initial disbursement of between $1 and $3 million for each MP to help farmers in their constituencies based on the extent of hurricane damage. When TVJ News contacted Mr. Green on the matter, he said letters were sent and the monies dispatched to the MPs. Krista Campbell, TVJ News.
St. Anne has recorded 3 murders so far for 2026. The latest incident involved the fatal stabbing of a taxi operator in Runaway Bay early Wednesday morning. 4 persons, including a female, are now in police custody. Dead is 49-year-old Paul Anthony Miller, a taxi operator of Mount Edgecombe, Runaway Bay. According to reports, about 2 a.m., Miller was involved in a dispute at the Truck Stop Entertainment venue in Salem after his vehicle was hit by a silver Toyota Axio. The argument escalated and Miller was stabbed multiple times in the neck. He was taken to the St. Anne's Bay Regional Hospital, where he was pronounced dead. Police say the occupants of the Axio fled but crashed nearby and were apprehended at a vehicle checkpoint. In the meantime, commanding officer for the St. Anne Police Division, Senior Superintendent Carlos Russell, is again urging citizens to resolve conflicts peacefully and avoid violence. It's time for a break here on the Midday News, but stay with us. More stories when we return. Welcome back to the Midday News. It's now time for the Business Minute.
West Indies Petroleum Terminal has reported net profit of $650,000 and revenue of $2.2 million for the third quarter of its 2025 financial year. According to the company's unaudited consolidated financial statements for the quarter ended September 30, operating profits stood at $900,000, while earnings before interest, tax, and depreciation reached $1.35 million. For the 9 months to date, total revenues amounted to $6.5 million compared to $6.7 million in the corresponding period last year. Operating profit for the period was $2.7 million. The company says it continues to diversify its income streams, with third-party storage fees rising sharply to $2.4 million, accounting for 43% of total storage revenues, up from just 10% in the previous year. Further afield, the parent company of luxury retailer Saks Fifth Avenue filed for bankruptcy protection late Tuesday. Saks Global filed for Chapter 11 protection in U.S. bankruptcy court for the Southern District of Texas. This marks the first major retailer bankruptcy of the new year. The company had struggled with a heavy debt load following its purchase of rival Neiman Marcus in 2024. And that's it for the Business Minute. I'm Prince Moore.
Thank you, Prince Moore. And here's Shimela Pullen with a preview of what's coming up in this evening's Health Report.
In this evening's Health Report, we look at salt consumption.
We eat a lot of processed meat that has salt in it as a preservative in the form of sodium or even sodium carbonate. In the case of many of our pastries and some of our biscuits and other staples or cereal products, we tend to have it in those forms. So we eat a lot of sodium.
That's the Health Report in Primetime News at 7. And now for today's Healthy Living tip. Check labels. Look out for low sodium options. Cook at home. Limit processed and restaurant foods. Use herbs and spices. Flavor food without salt. Eat fresh foods. Choose fruits, vegetables, and whole grains. And limit salty snacks. Avoid chips and packaged snacks.
And it's now time for the top regional and international stories.
In the region, the Barbados government says it may consider signing an agreement with the United States to accept third country refugees similar to arrangements already in place in some CARICOM states. Foreign Affairs Minister Kerry Simmons says Washington has not yet approached Bridgetown, stressing Barbados is not eager but will assess the matter if contacted. Other countries have set conditions, including rejecting asylum seekers with criminal records. And on the international scene, at least 29 people are dead and dozens injured after a construction crane collapsed onto a passenger train in northeastern Thailand, causing it to derail. The train, carrying about 200 passengers, was traveling from Bangkok when it was struck. Now several carriages overturned and authorities have launched an investigation. And those were the top regional and international stories. I'm Aaliyah Bryant.
Thank you, Alia. We head to a quick break. When we come back, we'll have your Midday Sports Report.